In today's video, I am going to be giving you guys one tip for every defender in Rainbow Six Siege. Now, this is going to help on console, on PC, doesn't matter the platform, but hopefully you guys do enjoy this video. Be sure to leave a like, be sure to comment, and be sure to subscribe. We are on the grind to 50k, but let's get into this. Alright, so the first tip is going to be with Goyo. Now, quickly, I want to explain, right? So the Goyo placement is very important. I'm playing Goyo a lot more with his 1.5 times. I am loving it. But if you see how I have a Goyo placement right here, this is a much better placement than right here. Why is that? It's because the most ideal thing to do with Goyo is to be able to shoot them where you don't have to expose your whole body to the enemy. So from right here, I'm very safe to shoot this. If I were to put it on the other wall, I would have to swing this to shoot this if I'm playing right here. This is a very pivotal point. And I know, obviously, if you're over here, it's easier to shoot it right there. But I'm saying, just in general, wherever you're going to play as Goyo, make sure that you are placing it to where it's easier for your teammates to shoot. And this is a very common spot. Another great spot, for example, would be at the top of white stairs. Instead of placing it further to the right, you can then place it there, so that way the most likely, the person who's playing inside kids can just shoot it without having to peek the whole thing of white stairs. So just make sure that wherever you're placing them, make sure they're not causing you to have to expose yourself way too much. Alright, so the next tip is going to be with Alibi. Now, this is going to be talking about the Alibi placements. If you're playing Alibi, the only place that you should be placing your Alibis is going to be underneath windows. Now, they are really good for, one, if they shoot open the window, it will let your entire team know where they are. On top of that, they're really good for information for when they do hop into a window, right? For example, if you place it on attic window, they're going to hop in, and whether or not they shoot it, it will make noise, you know they're there. Or if they hit it, then they'll be pinged, and your entire team now knows somebody is in attic. They're much better than placing them in, like, the most random spots, waiting for someone to shoot it like this. Like, always look for windows. Like, for example, another common window for someone to push would be this window as well. So if they shoot open this, they have to deal with an Alibi right in their face, as well as they'll be getting pinged. So make sure whenever you're playing Alibi, always put your Alibis in windows. They are great for information. Alright, so now for a Thunderbird, one tip that I want to give you. Now, do you see how you can see them, right? For example, let's say you were in the workshop, right? The bomb site's down here. You place it upstairs, but you have a C4, right? People are going to go up there, they're going to be like, oh, why is there a random Thunderbird right here, right? So once it goes off, that will disappear. So you place it upstairs, they're like, let's get some free health. Right when it disappears, you blow it up, and it kills them. It's a little bait and switch little trick over here that you can do. You could, like I said, you're defending downstairs, let's say pretend the bomb site's not even upstairs. You place it down in a random spot. Most likely, they're not going to shoot it. They're going to go and get the health. Especially in lower elo, they're most likely going to fall for it more. So you literally place it down. They're just like, oh, why is there a random Thunderbird here? And you just see for it. It's a free kill. I promise you. Go try it. Alright, so now when it comes to Frost, the one tip that I have that, one, Frost is so good now with a 1.5 times and a shotgun and a shield. The one tip that I have would be to, when placing your Frost masks, place them on windows. Don't place them in, like, random spots where you think people are going to walk and not see them. Place them on windows, and I'll explain why, right? If I place them on this window, if I place them on this window right here, and then I go and place one on that window over there, right? If they hop into this window, they are stuck between two choices. Either they will have to look down and shoot this. Now, as they look down and shoot this, I kill them. Or they hop in, they try and shoot me, they get hit by the frost mat. They are stuck between this little, like, conundrum they have here that they have to get over. That is rough. A rough life for them, really it is. So it's very, very good to place them on windows, because if they hop in and they shoot it, even if no one's watching it, you hear that. Now you know, okay, they're in the window. If they try and kill you, they hit the frost mat. If they try and shoot the frost mat, you kill them. Their gun is looking down. They have to look up, and that gives you enough time to kill them. Very, very simple tip. But Frost is great this season. Please use her. Literally, she's amazing. Alright, so now for Mute. Mute is a fairly simple operator. Obviously, one, please use a shotgun on Mute. You have an SMG-11 and a shotgun. He's a really good kit. But one thing you can do is, if you're going to be running around a lot and you want to get mutes down as fast as you can, while you're placing the mute down, once this blue light goes on, you can let go of it. You don't need to you don't need to do this, right? You only have the full bar go all the way up. You'll save time if you literally just place the mute down, and then once it's blue, let go of it, and then the animation just automatically finishes itself. So it's a really good tip in case you didn't know that. As well as whenever you are, placing mutes, make sure you're not placing them in super easy spots. Like, for example, I would rather not place it here. I'd rather place it here. Why would I rather place it here, okay? If they want to drone this out and they do want to get rid of this mute jammer, instead of them going right here, and shooting this, they have to expose their whole body just to shoot that. I know it's 2 tips, but it was just a little tip I just wanted to add in for the placement. But you know, they have to expose their whole body to do it. So try and put it in spots where it's going to cause the enemy to expose if they do want to shoot them. Alright, so now for this next tip on Thorn, I want to show you guys something really cool, right? So now, obviously, most of the time when I'm playing Thorn, I will throw my Thorns underneath windows. It is very, very good. However, if there is a twitch and they are always twitching my Thorns, what I'll tend to do is this gun has very good soft destruction, right? So if they're going to be coming into this breach and I know they're going to be running in, what I'll do is I'll shoot a little hole in the floor, right? Enough to where it won't go through the bottom, but enough to where you can see through it. And I will throw my Thorn device in there, so the Twitch zone cannot get it. And once I hop in, it will still go off and it will kill them. It will still just actually rock their whole world. And obviously, it's still very good to place them underneath windows. But if you are noticing there's a Twitch or they're shooting yours, just look for soft destruction and place them that way. Alright, so now moving on to Doc. Doc is very self-explanatory. There's not really much tips that you can give, but essentially what I like to do is I'm playing Doc, because obviously I'm not going to roam. Do not roam with Doc. I have 1.5 times on an MP5, so I'm living life, right? You see that I am, he's at 120 health. His health's going down because I just docked myself an accident like an idiot. But what I'll do, right, if I'm going to take a gunfight with somebody and I'm, like, I know I'm going to swing someone, right? Like I said, they take control of the site. I need to get ready to swing someone. I'm going to actually just overheal myself, go from 125 to 165, then take the gunfight. I'll have an advantage in health, and I have an MP5. I got the confidence because I got more health, and I'm ready to slam someone. So, just overheal. If you're going to get ready to take a gunfight, it will help you in the long run. Doesn't mean don't be it doesn't mean, completely be selfish and say screw you to your teammates. But it's just, if you're playing Doc, it's very simple. It's the best tip I can give you. Alright, so now for this tip with Mozzie. The best tip I have for Mozzie is quite literally just playing your drones with Mozzie, right? Obviously, your Mozzie placements, make sure that they're, same thing as I said with Mute earlier, place them where if they, on common doorways, and if they have to shoot them, they can't shoot them, make sure they're always against the wall. You want to place it on the floor over here. But once you get your drone, right, let's say you do get the Mozzie drone, use the map to your advantage. Don't just follow them around and place it in the most random spot, right? For example, if I was Mozzie and I got a drone, I would place one drone up here. This will allow me to give a bunch of intel to my, entire defender team, as well as if I do die or whoever is dead, they can watch the cams. So if you do get a drone, put it in the most ratty spot, but put it in an active spot. Don't place it in the most random spot, chasing people around like an idiot. It's very simple. Alright, so now for Rooney, there's actually a really cool trick that you can do with a bulletproof camera, right? So let's say I reinforce this side of the wall, right? Obviously, we have our fist. I can just punch this like this, right? And punch the wall like this. I can break it as much as I wanted to, right? I can then take my bulletproof camera, place it inside here, right? Not only that, because now they obviously have to shoot it. Not only that, but then I can place a ruining device on this, which will then make it to where they have to, in order to destroy this, they have to burn utility to destroy it, get rid of this renegade, as well as destroy this. So that's burning 2 things of utility, which is obviously super important. And this is a good cam because this watches the entire hallway and it gives me unlimited knowledge. Which is really good, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people did know that. So one little extra tip is to make sure that you are always playing Rooney and doing the feet holes or punch holes, right? Doing these type of feet holes will help you so much to be able to watch different angles. I wouldn't really do feet holes here, but I'm showing you, for example, what you could do. Like even feet holes over here would actually not be too bad if you were trying to hold it from back here. But it gives you a lot of stuff to work with. Alright, so now for pulse, one tip that I would like to give to you guys is, right, as the drone phase starts, what I'll tend to do is I will try my absolute hardest to hide, right? Why is that? Is because if they don't know there's a pulse, right? Okay, for example, if they do know there's a pulse, right? If I'm playing and I drone out, I'm like, oh guys, there's a pulse. Make sure we gotta clear out the bottom first before we do anything. That is always the priority, because you can't do anything, like for example on coastline, where the entire floor you can, C4 from, you can't go and take control of if there is a pulse below. So one tip that I would do, and it works with Cav too, it's another Cav tip too, is try and hide in the first, like for the drone phase. Try and get away for as much as you can, and if you can't, it is what it is. Just obviously wait it out, wait as much time as you can, and make sure that you are using your C4 to the best ability, whether that's with the communication or whether that is just based off of people sitting still in spots that you can destroy. But like I said, try and hide. It will actually help you a lot. They will have no idea there's a pulse. Even if later on they find out, it is what it is, but the initial time management is really good. Alright, now Capcan is fairly simple. Obviously, when you're placing these down, I think the best thing to do is going to be to place like at least one down on a doorway. If you want to go for if you want to go for 2, you can place 2 because 2 will down them, I believe, and then 3 will kill them. But when you're placing them, obviously, I personally would not place it here. It's a terrible spot to place them. But like, you want to place them in spots where it's common for them to push. Like, you don't want to go into you don't want to go all the way upstairs and just start placing them in random spots, right? So what I like to do is that you have 5 of them. The other one's right here. I'll place like 2 on a doorway where I know like they have to either look down to shoot it or they'll walk through and, you know, get downed. But what I'll also do is try and place at least 1 or 2 of your 5 on spots further away, but common spots for them to push, that they wouldn't be always checking for a cap can, right? So, like for example, if they're going to be going for a kitchen push, they would come through here, but they're not going to be looking here for a cap can. As well as, when you are placing a cap can, make sure that you are hiding it in a spot that they're not going to look. Like for example, like it would probably be smarter to place it on like this side of the doorway, because most likely they're going to be coming in from sunrise, and they're going to be peeking it like this, getting ready to shoot anyone on the head glitch, as opposed to peeking it like this and checking this corner and then seeing the cap can. Obviously, if they come down from blue, they'll see it, but it's a lot more likely that they won't see it if it's on a spot where they're not having to peek, not a common angle for them to peek. Alright, so now one tip for Jaeger. It's very simple. He literally just places down ADSs and then he's his own man. But one thing for placing down ADSs is always pay attention to where your teammates are sitting and try and think of pivotal areas where they can get naded out from. So for example, if I'm defending this site, obviously I'm going to want to have to put one somewhere like inside hookah. Hookah's really good, right? This is a common spot where they might nade, whether it's through the window or not. They're going to most likely nade this out. Another thing would be if they had a shield right here, which is very common, obviously place one over here, right? And then another great spot would be, what they're called, inside of Aqua. Aqua's a very common spot to hold, so there's always this little skylight, which I hate because my Jaeger never puts an ADS down if I'm solo queuing, right? But the tip here is essentially to look if you're solo queuing, or even with your 5-stack, right? See what they are playing, and also think of the most common spots for them to get naded, okay? Always think that. You don't want to start placing it down, like, in the most random spots. Like, you don't want to place one, like in the area over here. You want to place it where most likely they're going to throw nades through here. Most likely they're going to throw nades, another nade through here, right? Most likely they'll burn this ADS and try and nade the guy out over here so they can get control of this. And they'll most likely nade out, you know, from the little vent up here to get rid of anyone in Aqua behind the bar so they can take control. So just always look at where your teammates are sitting and always think where the most common spots are that they can get naded from. And besides that, just have fun with the AR and just roam. Just play a roam like anybody else would. You have an AR, you're going to actually smoke kids. Alright, so Wamai is a very simple operator as well. Obviously, you want to have the Wamais just like you had the Jaegers. I'm putting these back to back because they're very similar to each other. One thing I would say for Wamais, though, is a common mistake I'll see is people throw Wamais and not realize that they're going to screw over their teammates, right? So if I throw a Wamai, like, this would not be a bad Wamai because no one's sitting this close to a doorway, right? But if a teammate is literally, like, sitting here with a shield, do not place a Wamai right next to the shield because it will simply just nade them, right? The nade will fly back to the Wamai and kill them. Like, another really common example would be, like, if I'm playing inside here, I'm not going to want to place a Wamai, like, over here, like I would, like, an ADS. An ADS would be fine over here. But if I'm playing Wamai, I'm placing an ADS, or I'm placing a Wamai, like, up in the vent. Because if he throws a nade in this vent, right, and I have a Wamai down here, it's going to kill me, right? I've had solo queuing Wamais throw a Wamai back here while I'm playing behind Aqua Bar, and they nade it out, and the nade flies over here, and I have to run out, and I'm either dying to the grenade, and I wind up getting killed, or I have to take a gunfight with someone up here. So always make sure you're, you know, paying attention to the Wamais and think, hey, if there's a grenade that is very lethal, gets thrown here, it is going to affect anyone in the area. And as of playing Wamai, just play him like you would any other character. You can roam Wamai, he has impacts. He lost 1.5 times, rest in peace. But he's solid, whether you're using an all grid MP5. Alright, so now one tip for Ela would be very simple. Just make sure that wherever you're placing your Ela mines, you have somebody able to play off of it, right? You don't want to just place an Ela mine. I mean, you could place an Ela mine like further back here to get information. But that, like, I think the best, like, way that you're going to get utility out of the actual Ela mine is being able to swing off of an Ela mine, right? If someone gets Ela mine and they walk in, their entire screen is like World War III. They are just absolutely, like, fighting for their lives. So you want to make sure that you can swing off of an Ela mine. So placing one there, having these reinforced would not be a bad idea. Placing one by Cool Vibes, and when you're placing them, make sure you don't place them, like, down on the floor like this. Like, don't do that, please. Make sure you're always placing them high up so that way they can't. It's harder for them to see, and they're not going to be able to really see it. It's not bad in barbed wire either, but just make sure your Ela mines are places that you can actually swing off of. Alright, so now the next tip is going to be for Oryx, right? Oryx, for example, on Coastline is so good, right? You see how many hatches there are? There's one hatch. There's two hatches. There's a hatch inside of B site and hookah. There is literally so many hatches. Like, you can literally rotate around the map with Oryx so well. So, like, for example, if I'm playing, let's say we're defending kitchen. What I'll tend to do is I will always play by these hatches. I can rotate, get a pick, come back downstairs if I need to, and always be able to climb up these hatches. Now, best bet for Oryx, if you're especially playing maps like Coastline, Consulate, he's really good for as well. Just play off of the hatches, right? Don't be afraid to play upstairs, and then, you know, let's say the bomb's the kitchen, playing upstairs, and then once you get a pick, rotate back down. And then literally later on in the round, let's say they're fusing up top, literally go for a flank in the most unorthodox way. Like, people are going to be watching white stairs. If you run up to this hatch, you're getting free kills. And do the same thing on Consulate too. Alright, so now when it comes to smoke, I think something that a lot of smoke mains struggle with is going to be time management and knowing when to place them. Like, people will either just never use their smoke grenades, right? And they'll die with it in their pocket. Sometimes you have to just not be afraid. Like, if they're taking literally this entire map control and you need your teammates to then rally back to site, don't be afraid to throw it and burn the time. And look how much time it wastes. Ready? We're at 131. I believe it wastes 10 seconds. Yeah, as you see, 10 seconds. You can burn 30 seconds of time, okay? So one tip that I will always say is, one, watch the clock. Clock is super important. If you see there's 30 seconds, 45 seconds, whatever it may be, just know if you still have 3, you are burning 30 seconds. On top of that, when you're playing, make sure that if you're throwing your smoke, use it to your advantage, right? Like, you don't need to swing this and then throw it right on the doorway. You just need to stop them from entering. So use it to your advantage. Alright, so when it comes to Tachanka is actually really good. I think he definitely is probably the best on bank. But for example, if I wanted to show you with his Tachanka launcher, I think the only tip I can give is just try and understand how it works more. Look at how the ricochets work. Like, if I wanted to burn off this window, I don't have to come out and swing super close. I can literally bounce it off. Look how much it bounces, right? You could bounce stuff off the ceiling, right? You could bounce stuff off of walls. Like, you do not need to be a direct impact, more of like how smoke is. You have to really throw it at a certain angle. Whereas you can literally bounce them off of walls. So if I didn't want to have to peek out, I could shoot this and bounce it off the wall instead of me having to swing this doorway and try and get it in a certain spot. It works just like Capithouse does. If I wanted to lay prone here like this, I could as well. Shoot up like this and bounce up the ceiling. So I think the best tip would just be to, if you do make Tachanka and you want to play him a lot, practice and learn different ricochet angles that you can get and just practice it and look at how much time it takes and how much time it burns. Alright, so now moving on to Rook. It's kind of hard to give a tip. It's kind of like Doc. However, one simple one is, please, for the love of God, put your Rook armor down early in the round, so that the roamers who are playing can actually get the Rook armor, especially considering now is I'm not sure if it's out yet, but soon he's gonna be able to give self-res if you have Rook armor. So please make sure you place down right away. But that's one little tip. But essentially another tip would be to use this scope. Do not use any other scope. This is the only character on this defense who has a 2-time scope. And use your advantage. Do not be afraid to hold long angles. You quite literally have an ACOG on defense. Whether that's holding long angles, whether that's holding hallways, whether that's holding tight little pixel angles that you could not hold before. Being able to use a 2-time scope is so broken. And holding tighter pixels are going to be so much easier. Alright, so the next tip is going to be with the one and only Cavera. Now, one tip I have for you while playing Cav is something that I always do. Is obviously you want to get an interrogation. Obviously, you can't always get them because you would rather get the kill than go for an interrogation and get killed. But wherever I'm playing, I will always look on cams, right? Look on the outside cams. If you ever see somebody playing alone, right? Let's say, for example, that you see 3 people construction and somebody main entrance. But let's say somebody does decide to go junkyard, right? Always look for somebody you could single out or look for the least amount of people. A lot of the time people will push in solo because people are just stupid, especially in lower ranks, and you can capitalize off that because you are pretty much guaranteed to know that they are alone. If they, for example, are, not pushing with the team. Now, if they are pushing with the team, just try and play slower, be patient, and do not always go for an interrogation. Make sure it is clear. You rather get the kill than get killed and then have them get revived. So just look on cams and try and single people out. Alright, so now one trick with K that I want to show you is if you're playing inside of a garage, right? You can place them in the rafters, and when you place them in the rafters, you will actually be able to get the wall from below. So this will help you a lot because a lot of times Maverick will not be banned, and he'll just Maverick open the wall, so it's no point to get that wall. I mean, you can still go for it if you do the little K tricks up there, but they're most likely going to Maverick it, which is good to burn time, but they're going to get the wall open either way. So I think holding garage is such a pivotal spot for this bomb site that if you do this, it's a lot less likely that they're going to have a Maverick really come all the way over here after we just got the wall. So obviously you can also throw the, you know, Cades like one right here and one up here, and that will also get this whole wall executed. But like I said, they are most likely going to have Maverick. If they don't have a Maverick, do that. Place a Cade behind this monitor and place a Cade up here. And this will get the wall too. But just get creative with Cades. There's so many different spots in this game that you can use Cades. And like these are all protected. Like they're not going to be able to shoot these unless they actually come up in here. Alright, so moving on to Bandit. There's not really much you can get for a tip for this besides really Bandit tricking. Bandit tricking is something in this game that has slowly become less and less possible due to the new EMP grenades and the Thatcher stuff. But it's still definitely possible. So I would recommend just try practicing it and understanding and learning, you know, when the thermite's placed down, the time for an ace charge to go down. And as you practice that more, you will definitely pick up the, you know, the way on how to Bandit trick. It's still definitely possible, so very good, especially in uncoordinated teams. When people solo queue, they are not coordinated. They're not throwing Thatchers and EMP grenades and throwing an ace right away. They're stupid. So it will definitely help you. Another thing is if you are just placing bandits down, do not place them in places where they can get shot from very easily. Obviously, they can get the shot from below on this site, but there's many sites where they can't, and there's many spots that they can be shot from. So make sure if you're placing them down, they are not feasibly seen or easily seen from different angles. But especially, just try practicing bandit tricking. Understand how it works, whether you want to go into a custom game with your friend and try and see if you can bandit trick against him and just practice like that. But bandit tricking is still definitely very good, especially in lower ranks where people are not very coordinated. Alright, so now for Clash, one good tip for Clash would be to make sure you're always paying attention to this bar, right? You do not want it to keep going while it's red. You want to always make sure you save the red, because if you do need to retreat, you do not want them to be able to come up and punch your shield, and then you're done for. While you're playing her, make sure you are playing her as the first line of defense, right? Let's say this wall opened up. Play close to this. Just torture them. Like, burn as much time as you can. Obviously, don't expose yourself to this window or any areas you can be shot from on any map, but just make sure you were the first line of defense. You are essentially in their face and just annoying the living crap out of them. But make sure you're always paying attention to the bar, so that way if you do need to retreat, you can still have enough to retreat and fall back and not get a hit. It's very simple to play Clash. You just have to understand your your surroundings and make sure you save your health or your shield bar. And so now moving on to Warden. Warden is a very situational operator, but if you're ever in the situation where you notice that they are playing a lot of Ying or they're playing a lot of glass smoke grenades, your best bet is to play decently aggressive, right? You're the only one on defense who can see through these. So for example, if they were going to Ying out of this little wall right here, which most likely they will, or they might open it up and smoke it out, don't be afraid to play in the smoke or play, you know, with a shotgun here. Like, I use an MPX 1.5 times. Always. I do crush on it. However, if I'm on this bomb site and I know that they are commonly bringing Ying, I'm probably going to sit right here and get ready to just dive into the smoke or flashes when they Ying or smoke it out with a glass and just take that gunfight. So just learn to play fairly aggressive with Warden and do not be afraid to take a gunfight. But make sure you are actually using your Warden in the smoke or in the Yings, because you will catch so many people off guard. They're not going to be expecting a Warden. So just learn to play more aggressive and just use a shotgun sometimes. It actually is really good. Alright, so now for a mirror, something I want to show you that is a nice tip would be to make sure that you are always shooting out the bottom of your mirror, because you'll actually be able to see way more out of it, as well as when you are peeking, like let's say this wall is open, right? When you're peeking out of any mirror, what I can do, because I do play mirror a good amount, is one, now that I can actually see out of it more, because you see how you can see more if anyone tries to like prone underneath the mirror. It'll work really good for certain bomb sites where they can prone underneath different things, but don't always just peek like this, like an idiot. They're gonna pre-fire this, right? So sometimes peek crouched. Most of the time, they are not peeking, or they're not, crosshairs are not on the guy crouched in the mirror. They're usually aimed over here, ready for them to swing like this. So if you're playing mirror, change it up. Don't always, I mean, I still swing like this sometimes, but I'll change it up if it takes me a couple turns. So that way they're not, you know, always predicting where I'm gonna be at. But like I said, shotgun at the bottom of it, as well as don't be very predictable. Alright, so now the tip for Melusi would generally just be when you're placing them, try placing them in places where they have to look the opposite direction of where you are to shoot it. So instead of placing it on this side, whereas most commonly, they're going to hop in, shoot this, and look up, place it more like over here on this side. Because if they hop in, they have to then hop in, still be Melusi and fight you, or shoot this, lean this way, then turn all the way back around and try and kill you. And it definitely causes a lot of panic in them, and it will save you time to then be able to kill them if they do go and look for it. Malicious is very good. Just make sure you're placing them, like I said, in spots where they have to look the opposite direction of where you actually are. Alright, so now for Valk, there's a couple tips I can give you. But I think the best tips is look at your deagle. I don't know why there's a pressure on this deagle, don't ask why. But this deagle will allow you to make so much destruction, and you can use that to hide your cameras better. I think the best tip would be just looking at ways to hide your cameras, right? So for example, on border, you can take this, right? Go downstairs, throw a camera upstairs through here, and what this will do is this will actually give you an amazing hidden line of sight onto here, right? And you can see in here, and it's very hard to see. So the tip is generally use the surroundings and don't make it so obvious, and use your deagle to your advantage, right? Like, say I shoot this out, I throw one here. I'm able to now watch both ways. I'm able to watch this hallway, and I'm able to watch office. So just use your deagle for destruction. You can absolutely just demolish with it to make little spots for it, and just don't put it up in like plain sight. They're gonna see a gigantic blue light on them. So make sure it's maybe lower, and make it sure it's harder to see, like somewhere like low, and not where they're gonna be looking all the time. Alright, so now a tip for Echo, right? Echo is definitely, he doesn't get played as much as if they used to now that the Jokai drones are not invisible. But if you can hide a drone, whenever you're going to Echo drone anybody, right, what you want to do is you have to understand the bomb takes 7.5 seconds to plant. So if you want to waste as much time as you can, if your Echo drone is in a hidden spot, like it can't see your Echo drone, right? You want to wait for them to plant, right? Like go for like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on like 5, maybe 6 if you're really counting, but at least 5, Echo them. Don't just see them and Echo them right away, because you want to waste as much time as you possibly can. So you want, what I would do is like whenever I see someone plant, I always count them, like, alright, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I do it on 5 just to be safe, in case I'm counting too slow. And then I'll Echo them, and it will make you waste more time, because the whole point of playing on the Echo drone is to stop the plant. So some tip is just make sure you count in your head how much time they've been planting for, and then do it. Alright, so now one tip for Lesion, it's very simple. I mean, you're simply just throwing Lesion mines, but I want to talk about your Lesion mine placement, right? I would recommend, obviously, placing them in common doorways that they're going to enter in from, but make sure they're not super, far into sight. Like, for example, placing one down, like, bottom metal, or, like, mid metal, would be better than placing one, like, directly at the top. Maybe, like, a little bit further down, just because if you place it, like, super close to where, you want to get the information from, like, the whole point of Lesion mine is not to do damage, but to let you know that they're there. You want to place it further down so that you have more time to react, you have more time to communicate. So try placing them in more areas, like for example, like on office door if you're playing in fountain, as opposed to like over here or over here. Just when you're looking at your Lesion mine placement, just try to think of the best way that you can get enough information and still have time to react. Alright, so now moving on to Maestro. One tip that I would say that you want to look at is to use your cameras more as, or your turrets more as actual cameras than to just shoot everyone. Like, you do not want to be just shooting people. You want to save these as long as you can and save them for the later round. So that way, if you're off-site or if you do die, you still have a camera up. So that way they can, for example, be shot from above if it had to be, if it had to happen. As well as you can only really use this when either someone is not looking at you or if they're planting to get them off the plant. Just, the tip is really to just not be so, like, trigger happy with it, and place it in spots where they have to either melee it and run towards it and expose them, or have to burn utility. Like, for example, they have to run across here, probably go through the rotate or any lines, you have to destroy that. And then if you did wind up placing one inside of A, right, let's say you place it, like, for example, up here, where they would literally have to shoot it, or, like a grenade, or an ash charge, or whatever it may be, in order to destroy it. They can't just run up to it and just melee it like that. So just put it in spots where they can't melee it, and just be very patient and really only shoot it when they're either not looking at you or when they're planting. Alright, so now one tip for Vigil. Vigil is a very fairly easy operator to play, and I think that what people do is they waste their utility of the Vigil way too often. Because you need to really only be using it when either you're actively running or people are actively droning you out, and not just be using it all the time. Because, for example, if I'm hiding, right? Let's say, for example, I was hiding over here. For some odd reason, let's just say I'm holding this over here. I would not want to sit here and use it, because I would alert the entire team, hey, there's a Vigil nearby. Guys, you have to be careful, right? So, I would you know, more of use it if I was going to go and, let's say, go for like a rotate, right? Like, let's say I was playing back in East Stairs, right? I would then turn it on, right? Because they could have flank cams up. They could still be droning out, and then I would use it to then push up. So use it more when you're going for pushes, or if they are droning out the entire area and like you're essentially on a choke point. Like if you were essentially holding this right here, right? If you're sitting like right here, right? And you have this door open, you'd obviously want to be Vigil because you don't want them to know where you are and you want to get the kill. If you're hiding, don't really use it. If you're in a, you know, active gunfight area, then use it obviously. But I think the best tip is to just try and understand when to use it and make sure you're always paying attention to the actual Vigil bar. Alright, so now moving on to Castle. Now the tip I have for you is a quite simple tip. A tip where you can literally catch people off guard very easily, right? So if you hit this 9 times, I hit it 8 times. If you hit it 9 times, it's a great way to make rotates, whether you need to, like, if you, for example, if you lock your teammates out of sight on accident, or, you know, if you don't want to lock them out in general, or if you want to get aggressive, right? You hit it 9 times, or you hit it 8 times, right? Then, when you want to run out, you hit the 9th time, and then you're able to just jump out right away. So, versus, rather than hitting this, having this be wide open, and then being able to get out. So, once again, this is all you do. You put up a castle, and it can go great for example, like, if I want to, like, block off archives, and my teammates need to get back in, and I don't want to, you know, them to want to strangle you, you hit this 8 times. So that way, on the 9th time, all they have to do is melee it, and then they can run through. And even you do have to get back, get control of side again. So like I said, hit a castle 8 times. On the 9th time, you can fly through, jump out a window, go back into a site, whatever it may be. All right, so now moving on to the next tip, it's going to be for a zombie. And for a zombie, I have to pretty much give you the tip of, I feel like you shouldn't really waste them on windows. Like, I think they're good for windows. On certain maps, they're good for windows, but you need to actually use the utility to your advantage, right? So for example, on this map, it's really good because you see how a lot of times when you're taking control of garage, you have to rely on looking through these little holes. However, with the zombie, you can block this off, right? You can block all these holes off, and I don't have time to show that one because there's only a minute left in this round, right? Look at how more terrifying it is to have to take control of this when you have to worry about all these blocked off. You're gonna have 4, so you can block, or you can have 4 here, so there and there as well. Just imagine that. Imagine you see that, trying to take control as an attacker. It is terrifying if you do not have nades. But being able to play this as a defender, it makes it so much easier to where you could stand up, you don't have to be crouching the entire time. You could go like this, you can go like this, and normally they'll be expecting you to, you know, be looking through the little holes, but you're going back and forth, and they're just not going to be able to tell. It's going to be a lot harder. It's just way easier as a zombie. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know which one was your favorite tip, and let me know, give me some other random tips down below that maybe I missed in this. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, be sure to comment, and be sure to subscribe. I'll see y'all. Much love.